Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to two Labour politicians who have both, in their time, stood for leadership of the Scottish Labour Party. Last year, the MSP Neil Findlay was on the platform, and more recently he was the Scottish campaign chief of the Corbyn campaign. And Tom Harris, the former MP for Glasgow South, who lost his seat at the last general election. He ran for the top Scottish job in 2011. Good evening to you both, gentlemen. Well, Neil Findlay, Jeremy Corbyn, he won the support of the Labour membership, that is absolutely clear, but can he now go on to win over the voters of Middle Scotland and Middle England? It's much more difficult, isn't it? Can he do it?
Well, first of all, I would congratulate Jeremy on what was a fantastic result and overwhelming result in the election. And he ran an outstanding campaign, led with ideas, vision, and enthused young people, older people, people from across the whole of the UK, and I think it was a fantastic campaign. Now we got on to the hard work of winning over people to go forward to the election.
And is there any sign that he can do that? I mean, it's one thing to appeal to the party faithful, quite another to win over Middle England or floating voters or people in Scotland who've shifted to the SNP.
Well, we've attracted people from across society. It's one of the biggest democratic events that the party has ever had, and we've got new people joining, young people joining in very significant numbers. So he clearly can convince people with the political agenda that he's putting forward, and I look forward to that being done over the next few weeks and months and bringing people more and more on board. I think it's very exciting times for the Labour Party.
Tom Harris, is Jeremy Corbyn prime ministerial material?
Well, no, but I agree with Neil. It's a very exciting time for the Labour Party. There's never been a better time to be a former MP looking at this from the outside. Neil and I have had discussions on social media on this subject over the last few weeks. My views haven't changed that Jeremy, lovely guy though he is not prime ministerial material. He's never going to be prime minister. My view is you don't elect someone that all the evidence shows you cannot be elected as prime minister unless you really feel comfortable in opposition, and I don't feel comfortable in opposition because that just lets down all the people that rely on us.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it, Neil Findlay? I mean, he set out his stall. He's a socialist. He wants tax cuts, tax rises for the rich. He wants to renationalise the energy companies and the railways. He wants to print money to fund public spending. Is that a vote winner across the country?
Well, first of all, could I say to Tom, I mean, Tom put forward a prospectus for a candidate who secured 4.5% of the vote. Now, that by any stretch of the imagination,
rub it in, why don't you?
That by any stretch of the imagination could not be deemed as being a successful campaign.
But does that mean Jeremy Corbyn?
No. So I think we have to put what Jeremy did in context. 60% of the vote, huge numbers of people voting for him. Huge number of people saying that that's the agenda that Labour has to be on to win back. And if you talk about some of the issues that you raised, things like renationalising the railways are very popular policies. Why are we subsidising money? Why are we subsidising the railways, which in effect is simply handing money to shareholders for a service that's poorer than if we were running it ourselves? Now, that's just common sense that you would do that, and you would cut out that subsidy and we would run that ourselves for a better railway system. And when you talk about printing money, we're printing money at the moment. We're just stuffing it into the pockets and the mouths of bankers instead of using money to get people back to work and build the infrastructure of the country. I think that's a much more sensible way of doing things.
Well, I wonder, Tom Harris, if that's the point. Jeremy Corbyn's election, is it not just the result of the Social Democrat wing of the Labour Party completely failing to put out any sensible alternative to the Conservative agenda on cuts and on cutting the deficit?
Yes, it is absolutely our failure. It's our failure to challenge the Conservatives effectively, and it's our failure in this context to provide an inspirational message for members.
So why criticise Jeremy Corbyn then?
And Neil is absolutely right that the mandate that Jeremy has is overwhelming, it's unprecedented. There is no question that he has the overwhelming support of the Labour Party membership. That makes me, and I think it will make the vast majority of voters in this country, very uneasy. Jeremy is the most extreme, the most left-wing leader that the Labour Party has ever had. Even in the early 1980s.
Tom,
hold
you're
on,
the
if I
person-
just say, hold on,
you're
give me
the
a chance.
extremist here.
Even in the early 1980s, the closest the hard left ever came to controlling the Labour Party was when Tony Benn almost won the deputy leadership. Now somebody with identical views to Tony Benn is the leader of the Labour Party. Now that... In the last general election, and all the surveys have shown that the reason we lost is because people didn't trust us on the economy, they didn't think we had credibility, they thought Ed Miliband was too left-wing. The idea that they will now switch from Tory to Labour for Jeremy Corbyn is ludicrous. It's pie in the sky.
It's no secret that he's a fan of Tony Benn, isn't he? He was holding up the Tony Benn tea towel today, wasn't he?
He bought one.
Tom, the idea that the position that you put across that secured a whole 4.5% of the vote is not the extreme wing of the Labour Party. That's exactly where you are. You're on the fringes of the Labour Party now.
I agree.
But there were other candidates as well.
95% of the people in that election rejected Tom's position.
Yes.
So let's not go with Tom's political judgment. I would far rather go with the judgment of the mainstream of the Labour Party, who voted in such huge numbers for Jeremy at the weekend.
What then is this going to do in Scotland? Will the voters come flooding back away from the SNP back to Labour?
Well, I think we've already seen a bit of panic in the SNP ranks because Nicola Sturgeon had to play some card at the weekend. What did she do? She played Let's Have an Independence Referendum 2 card because there's two groups of people who voted in the referendum, voted yes in the referendum. There's diehard nationalists who will always vote yes, always want to vote yes. And there's a whole group of people for whom the referendum, they thought that was just a way to have a fairer, better country. Well, now they have an alternative, and that alternative is Jeremy putting forward the fairness and equality agenda that he has stood on in this election.
And Tom Harris, anti-austerity, for that matter, anti-nuclear policies seem to play well in Scotland.
Nicola Sturgeon is not going to be worried by the prospect of a Jeremy Corbyn-led Labour Party for the simple reason that the main threat to the SNP from the Labour Party would be if the Labour Party could stand up and say, look, we're going to win a big majority at Westminster, therefore Labour voters should come back to us having left us in 2015. If we cannot make headway in the polls at a UK level, those voters are going to stay with the SNP. And Nicola Sturgeon is very sensibly staying on the centre ground of politics. She didn't out-left us. She is representing the broadest section of voters who are going to be put off by Jeremy Corbyn's extremism.
Very, very briefly, Neil Findlay, this is the problem, isn't it? The SNP are pro-business, they are moderate, they are highly disciplined.
Absolutely.
The UK Labour Party is not.
Well, we've got to now get our act together and become that force that will attract people to us. If you look, 28,000 people have joined the Labour Party since that election result on Saturday.
Quite a few have left.
28, well, not that I'm aware of, 28,000 have joined the Labour Party since Saturday. I think the Labour Party is a tremendous organisation because people like Tom and I can be members of it and we can debate this openly and honestly. There's a big debate to be had. You know what? I'm really up for that debate. I'm looking forward to it. I hope Tom is too, but he needs to stop being as negative as he is and start contributing something positive to this debate.
Well, that debate will continue. Neil Findlay, Tom Harris, thank you both very much.
Thank you very much.